That is the sound of a distracted, divided, and dead American until they hear. Battle for freedom, triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Hello everyone, this is Watson Prunier, your host from Battle for Freedom on Mojo50 Radio, and I'm glad that you are following me today. It's a Friday. Happy Friday. Yes, Linda, happy Friday. Linda went to facebook.com/Mojo50 Radio to make a comment, and you have a chance to do that as well too. My website, Battle4Freedom.com. The parent website is Mojo50 Radio, and you go to Mojo50.com. I believe that you just finished listening to the Pat Oney Show, and those of you, if you continue to listen throughout the day on iHeartRadio, you'll hear the Daily Mojo next, and so many more available programs. You'll know which programs if you go to Mojo50.com/schedule and get all the data. Thank you, Lisa, Carolyn, Brian, and Brenda for being part of the program as we get into this whole idea of wokeness. I want to talk to you today about wokeness, progressive or regressive. And it's when we sit here and we look at the way that life is twisted itself because of over the last 20 years of this new kind of knowledge and everything like that, we have to see, is wokeness really as free as it is? Is controlling the flow of freedom in the area of wokeness? Where we are today is because of this supposed progressive way of thinking that has supposedly made our lives freer, more accepting, and liberating. Is that true? I don't know. We'll talk more about it. Thank you, Curtis, for being part of the program. Yes, it's going to be very cold this weekend. I think it's going to get pretty cold. I think tomorrow is going to be the coldest lows. And we're definitely not going to be, you'll be woke when you feel how cold it is, and you have nothing but better to do than just to bundle up in your home and stay far away. Please stay safe out there if you can. I really would appreciate if you do that. It's so cold. And honestly, I want to move beyond just the conversations of the temperatures. I want to go to the temperature of, or the climate of our country, the climate of the world, because woke theology has supposed to have been progressive and progressive in its thinking, its mentality, in awakening the spirits and hearts of people around the world. But I dare say that it has been regressive. But if you want some real good wokeness, I'm going to tell you what real good wokeness is getting yourself some American Pride Roasters coffee. My usual flavor, my usual blend is Watson's White Chocolate Caramel Coffee. It's delicious. It's amazing. If you really want to be woke, you start your day off with American Pride Roasters Coffee, the official coffee of Mojo50 Radio. If you don't do it, there's something wrong with you. Actually, in Black History Month, when I think about this, it was a year ago this month that I was struggling with. I have to give you the history to Watson's White Chocolate Caramel Blend from American Pride Roasters Coffee. It was a year ago this month. I was feeling dejected because of the fact that American Pride Roasters Coffee had decided to make a blend for the Bells of Liberty. And they had a strawberry chocolate blend, and I'm trying to figure out how is it that they chose to sponsor another blend of coffee during Black History Month, and they had none for me. So I made a big stink about it. I basically hit them hard on this because I felt dejected. I felt rejected by them. And I made it plain. I went strong on Twitter, and I let them have it. And the worst part about it was DM had no desires in hiding his racist tendencies. But enough of an uproar from Facebook, and not just Facebook, but Mojo50 fans came alongside me. We rallied, and we broke down those walls of oppression. Yes, the official coffee of Mojo50 Radio had some difficulties, had some struggles, but once they saw and understood my woke wokeness, they caved to the powerful pressures of woke theology and created Watson's white chocolate caramel blend. That's the history of me getting my own flavor. I use my wokeness on them, and I'm so happy because this flavor is amazing. Watson's white chocolate caramel blend during Black History Month is amazing. Get your own as soon as you can. Ready or cold, Renee, ready or cold. Oh my goodness. No, so let's get back into this whole idea of because you have to understand, I had to be a little bit on the goofy side because this topic, this wokeness that's supposed to make our lives better, has not. This wokeness that's supposed to make a life in America, thank you, Linda. I'm glad you enjoy it. This wokeness is supposed to make life in America so much better, has not. It has made matters worse. And as we watch this, and a lot of people don't think that we weren't paying attention. See, woke theology, the wokeness basically comes off as this, oh, we've got a better understanding of the truth. We have this perspective of the truth that you don't know. And honestly, I would almost equate the wokeness to sometimes the information, the hidden information that we were waiting for from Q and the former president. That there was this knowledge that was supposed to be dropped on the nation that was going to wake up liberals, wake up the left, expose the darkness. You see, we have the woke theology of social justice movement, but we also had the woke theology of the QAnon movement that supposedly was going to tell us all this information and this new perspective of truth, and everybody was going to get exposed, and America was going to rally together. Americans were going to rally together under the banner of this truth that was out there. Now, we're doing our best to hide the information as best as we can because we don't want people to know exactly how evil and destructive we really are. This is, I want you to see something here. I saw this morning. Oh, no, I'll get through a couple of other things. The wokeness. Right now, the wokeness is this virus is killing us. We have to keep people locked down. We have to make people wear masks. We have to make people take a vaccine. We have to keep people restricted from their freedoms because you have to understand wokeness controls the good morning, Tim and Curtis. Thank you for being part of this. And Renee and John, I see you there as well. The wokeness basically turns around and basically tells us how free we really are. That we know better for you. That's the language that we've heard from Democrats. We in the government know better for you. You don't have to make that decision. We'll make those decisions for you. That's not wokeness. That's tyranny. That's oppression. Because if schooling is done the correct way, children are not taught what to think. Children are taught how to think. Humans are taught the perfect disciple, the perfect disciple teacher is the one who teaches people how to think, how to process the word of God and actually move. And here's the bigger process in this. The equation on being the best believer is understanding the equation from the Bible that shows that man is fallen. So there's nothing we could do to build ourselves in a ladder. We can't make Jacob's ladder up to heaven, even if it's a tower, even if it's a spaceship, even if it's some kind of transporter technology. We can't transport ourselves into heaven to stand before the presence of God without any fear, without what Christ had done for us on the cross. But we have the technology that we have has allowed us to believe that we have this understanding of truth. And because we're so innovative, because we can create something so unique as a phone so slim, and it's not like those bricks that we carried 20, 30 years ago where you got the knowledge. We've got the understanding. We're far more superior and intelligent than the founding fathers and their broken law, their archaic laws. I mean, like, again, the Constitution's archaic, the Bible's archaic, and everyone who is not in this generation of innovation is archaic. Is this progressive or is this regressive? But you have to understand that in that language is the control of freedom. Tragedy. Let's get into some of these things. This is what wokeness has done. Texas girl, 8 years old, finds the body of her 12-year-old brother after he killed himself because COVID lockdowns left him feeling lonely. Hayden Hunstable took his own life in April shortly after the pandemic began. His father, Brad, didn't see any warning signs prior to the tragedy. Mental health is a growing concern for children and adults during the COVID-19. Brad Hunstable has started an organization in Hayden's honor to bring light to the mental health problems being suffered from lockdowns and loneliness. Now, mind you, this is happening, for 10 months? I'm talking to you, and I think I talked about this 10 months ago as well, too. But wokeness that basically says this is the best thing that we can do. We went beyond the 2 weeks of a lockdown. We extended that 2 weeks further than you actually can imagine. But wokeness has this ability to destroy lives. Think about this. Would you want your child, your youngest child, to basically uncover and now live with the reality of finding her older sibling dead? We have forced children. We have forced children to live a life earlier than they need to. I understand of allowing children to mature and grow up in the midst of life, because there's things that they have to learn. Life is tough. Life is hard. And it's key that we start helping our children understand the harshnesses of life. But death? I understand the death of a parent or the death of a grandparent or a relative or even a friend, but to be there in your home, in the castle where you find the most comfort and security, and now you have to find your own sibling, the person you probably cherished more than you cherished your parents. You probably argued with them more than ever, but make no mistake, you loved your sibling. Wow. Wokeness. Let's move away from that tragedy and move to another tragedy. Well, or seemingly a better situation. We've been trying to tell you this, and here it is now. All of a sudden, in the wokeness, but let me before I get into this, because now they're saying that you have record numbers of declines in the COVID cases now. That 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the Biden administration, we have record number of declines in being told that because having masks is what's fixing the problem, that more and more people are wearing masks. I tell you that everyone was wearing masks 9 to 12 months ago. 9 to 12 months ago, people were wearing masks. Even the first few masks that were put on there. Don't talk about the pee contest. Don't talk about, well, if everybody's wearing a mask. No, if masks solve the problem, we should have seen declines as early as July. But the numbers kept going up. You had Costco, you had Walmart, you had every place was mandating that you wear masks. And if wearing masks was solving the problem, we should have had declines as early as July. But the news, the progressive news, control the narrative of the success of how far back this went and how healed people were because of wearing masks. Wokeness, the media controlling the narrative. See, you exactly, Tim, fake numbers that control the narrative of, and that's what wokeness does. Because now here it is that Cuomo's deciding, Cuomo's deciding that He will allow large stadiums and arenas in New York to reopen at 10% capacity this month, with fans required to test negative for COVID no more than 72 hours before the event. Any stadium or arena that can fit more than 10,000 people can stage events in New York beginning February 23rd at 10% capacity. It's very interesting how all these things can happen now. Renee says that her boss wears a mask and she's home with COVID right now. And Cuomo's opening the doors. He's supposedly opening the windows that were going to allow people to get. I didn't want you to hear the voice of this liar and manipulator. This is so disgusting because of the fact that this wokeness and we, because this is the narrative you hear now. Look how compliant he is of opening the doors now, right? The doors of New York could have been opened 10 months ago, 10 months ago. It should have been open 10 months ago. Businesses, restaurants, everything should have been open. Yes, Donald Trump was correct in looking to try and get everyone back to normal by Easter. But they kept faking numbers to make it seem like this tragedy was taking more lives than it did. See, because we got all these numbers of hundreds of thousands of people who were dying, right? But they were faking the numbers. Oh, you don't believe me, huh? Check this story out. I got this morning. This one's really, really downright deplorable. Cuomo aide admits they hid nursing home data so feds wouldn't find out. Governor Cuomo's top aide privately apologized to Democrat lawmakers for withholding state nursing homes death toll from COVID, telling us we froze out of fear the true numbers would be used against us by federal prosecutors. This is what the Post has reported. The stunning admission of a cover-up was made by Secretary to the Governor, Melissa DeRosa. Melissa DeRosa, she said that the Cuomo. She basically said that during a video conference call with state Democratic leaders, in which she said the Cuomo administration had rebuffed a legislative request for the tally in August because right around the same time, then President Donald Trump turns this into a giant political football. He started tweeting that we killed everyone in nursing homes. He said he starts going after New Jersey. He's going Governor Murphy, starts going after Gavin Newsom. He starts going after Gretchen Whitmer. In addition to attacking Cuomo's fellow Democratic governors, DeRosa said Trump directs the Department of Justice to do an investigation into us. And she ends it with the following. And basically we froze. We told you this was what was happening. You didn't believe us. We told you the numbers were coming down, that the numbers were being falsely reported. When you saw all those graves, all those bodies, tens of thousands of bodies being buried, and we tried to tell you that more people died than they wanted to admit. They said only 4,000 died. We find out that the numbers were supposedly 12,000. 3 times that amount. But we're not woke. It's conspiracy theory to say that the people were dying at ridiculous numbers in New York. Cuomo killed. You said Bush lied and people died. Cuomo lied and people died. Cuomo lied and people died. But you keep blaming Trump for what was going on here. You sat there and decided that you didn't want to elect Trump because he was responsible for the death of 200,000 people. See, I know people we want to talk about politics right now, but you have to understand something. In this woke theology, as people are being taught to be ashamed for being white, be shamed for being conservative, be shamed for following Trump, be shamed for believing believing the likes of these other doctors who are telling you about the lies of COVID-19 and actually the promises of things like hydroxychloroquine because they actually work. That you need to be fearful of using a vaccine that has not been tested, that has not been perfected, that people are dying, people are losing their lives, people are getting sick, people are getting blood disorders because of these vaccines. We warned you what was going to happen. We told you what was going to happen. We told you what works. Former President Donald J. Trump told you hydroxychloroquine works. It's worked for 65 years. But somehow this woke theology that says our new technology, our present technology is more intelligent and more reliable than the stuff of the past. The same mentality that basically said we're going to reject hydroxychloroquine that worked for 65 years is the same mentality that says, you know what, the Constitution's outdated and it doesn't matter, and the Bible is outdated and it doesn't matter. There's no way that those people could be so intelligent back there to recite and memorize and say the whole Old Testament from rote memory. It's impossible that people could have been that smart at that time. Really? Watch our kids. Our kids can sit there and recite the lyrics, the songs, and the dance move to almost every top pop song that's out there right now. Whether it's rap, whether it's rock, whether it's pop, they can memorize, and this is what our children can do. And guess what? You turn around and watch how many people can sit there and recite words, phrases, and key phrases from movies, from commercials. And this is what we do in our limited capacity of understanding. This is what we do in our limited, overwhelmed with information mindset in this current day. And you're telling me that the people who didn't have the distractions of TV, they didn't have the distractions of video games and smart devices thousands of years ago, could not have memorized 39 books of the Bible, let alone just the first 5 books of the Bible? And all the Psalms? Woke theology controls the information. It controls the freedom because it basically tells us how intelligent and how responsible we are to the data that's given. We provided the information. We told you people were dying in New York. We let you know that they were lying about the numbers, and now it comes out. This was what, August 4th, 6 months ago. 6 months ago that they were lying about the numbers. And if New York was lying about the numbers then, what else were Democrats lying about? Progressive or wokeness? Progressive or regressive? I tell you, regressive because of the fact that it attacks the very fundamental nature of our liberties, of the Constitution. This is the reason why the founding fathers turned around and God wonderfully provided through our founding fathers the Constitution to understand that our liberties should not be in any way curtailed because of manufactured or obscure data relating to tragedies that are affecting our countries and the world. When governors and statesmen and whoever it is that's in government decide that they want to create rules and regulations to prohibit the free exercise of life and liberty in the midst of a pandemic, the Constitution stands against this. Why do you think Democrats keep saying that the Constitution's archaic? Why do you think that they want to go after, they allow Facebook, big tech giants, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Google, all these different platforms to curtail, even Amazon, to basically limit what Parler can do? Because you can't say the truth. You say our truth. You say our distorted truth, our manipulated truth. There's so many woke people that have talked about this. And think about this. If they are lying about the numbers of people who died, is it possible that they would lie about the systemic racism? Is it lie that they would lie about homophobia? Is it possible that they would lie about Islamophobia and xenophobia and all these different things that has moved so many hearts in this country believing that this is what we must conquer? Is it possible that they even lied about the quote-unquote white supremacist tendencies of former President Donald J. Trump? You know what? I'm getting hot and I need to take a break. So let's enjoy my silliness in my next 2 minutes. Talk to you on the flip side. Warning. The next 2 minutes will be without music. Why? Because someone in a third world country decided to copyright open source or basically royalty-free music. Right now, you would probably be listening to soothed sounds of elevator music. But no, I got a warning that music is copywritten. So you will have to listen to my voice for the next minute and 30 seconds. Why? Because I haven't come up with something unique for you to listen to. Now, in this time, while you've been mesmerized by my voice, I hope you would have taken the advantage to go make yourself another pot of American Pride Roasters coffee, or go to the potty break, or take a potty break. Because when we get back, I will keep you enraptured with my wit and my silliness. And I hope that your bladder will be forgiving to you if you do not go now. 1 minute left. That's how much time you have to quickly use the restroom and wash your hands. Remember, 20 seconds for scrubbing to make certain that you get rid of the Rona and anything else that could make you sick. Now, it's about 40 seconds left, and I still have the feeling that you're not going anywhere because you just want to hear what I'm going to say. If you soil yourself, it's your fault. I gave you the opportunity. Less than 30 seconds left. Now you've lost the proper window of washing your hands after using the restroom. What are you going to do now? Are you just going to sit there and wait to hear what I have to say? Guess what? We're almost 10 seconds away. Are you really prepared to go the distance? Well, I really appreciate your tenacity. Battle for Freedom is back now. Cool down there for a little bit. Yes, I'm your host, Watson Prudier for Battle for Freedom on Mojo 5 Radio. I'm just one of the many programs, and this woke, I'm not going to lie to you, this woke culture, this woke nonsense has really needed me to call out to those who created this wonderful program called New Life Holistic.
Does your mind seem like it often shuts down before it even starts? Sounds like you need to detox to improve your health in body, mind, and spirit. I'd like to tell you about New Life Holistic. It is an amazing therapy process that uses neurofeedback and biofeedback for many issues that ails everyone. New Life's method and approach to health, balance, energy, and vitality is what sets it apart from anything you have experienced ever before. Call 1-833-4-BIO-LIFE and tell them Watson from Battle for Freedom has sent you. One more thing. Give them the code MOJO50 and save $50 off of your first session. The consult is free. New Life Holistic.
Yes, New Life Holistic. Try and recover. Probably the biofeedback is probably the only way you're going to recover from this wokeness because it's so hard to wrap your mind around and believe. Holy cow, they actually believe this nonsense? Oh, what was it? Carolyn said I couldn't make this in enough time, but she says, I'm embarrassed by our news media lies, brainwashing the gullible. Yes, it's true. I got a chance to catch this. Tim basically said they were lying about the numbers dying in the nursing homes. They were also lying about the numbers in the hospital because they left the hospitals empty, and they also empty the prisons. Yeah. Let's get the people who are infected out of prison Let's arrest you. Let's arrest you for not abiding by the COVID rules, and then let you out of the COVID. Because why not put the people in prison in masks and prevent the spread? Because if you mandate in prison, if you have to wear a uniform, if you have to wear 3 square meals a day, I'm sure you could wear a mask. The most secure place that would keep people from getting infected would be prisons. Keep people, if you don't want to wear, if you do not want to wear a mask, you stay in your cell. This would have been the best way to prevent people from getting sick. The most enclosed, controlled environment possible was a prison. And even there, you couldn't keep the numbers down. I sometimes I have to pause because, and sometimes we have to pause because of the insanity of what we've been told, and how this could be controlled with masks, with limitations, with controlled environments. You had the controlled environment and you failed to make it happen. Because we have to trust the science. We have to trust the science. No, even though Fauci kept flipping and flopping, we were going to trust the science. I want to take a brief step over into the science for a minute because this is a great one. Holy moly guacamole. Have you guys heard about swine sweeper? Swine sweeper. Here you go. Next step, swine-craft. Scientists teach pigs how to play video games, showing the animals are much more intelligent than previously thought. Experts from Canada worked with 2 Yorkshire and Penapinto 2 micro pigs. They taught them to play a game which involved moving a cursor with a joystick. Each of the swine showed some level of conceptual understanding of the game. The team said pigs have a remarkable level of behavioral and mental flexibility. Now, if you don't know much about Canada, you need to tune in at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to listen to American Rock Radio with Mike Phillip, who lives in Canada, and he can tell you a lot of the craziness that's going on. And the reason why I'm here on talking about the science is we have money and time to teach pigs how to play video games. We have time and money. Wherever that money came from, don't tell me you can't feed the homeless. Don't tell me you can't clothe people. Don't tell me if you have money to do foolery or buffoonery. Go to Buffoon of the Week with Gene Beardelli, buffoonoftheweek.com, if you want to hear and see some of the craziest things that are out there. But we actually have time. Wokeness. We have money for these programs that are completely insane, but we don't have money to feed the homeless, clothe the homeless, give them shelter. We have people on skid rows around the country, but we have money for some of the most. When you sit there and you look at the money allocated in these stimulus bills, gender study programs, all these other different things that are going on right now, and all this money being spent. And this is what I don't understand. Woke theology says we need money to help these people who are suffering, but when you look at the bills, the people who need the money only get less than 10% of the money allocated to these spending bills, and the rest of the money goes to some of the most ridiculous studies and plans around the world, or even in the States. Woke, because if we're really woke, why don't we take all the money that we say that we're trying to help people out with and actually help the people rather than fund some of the most insane and ridiculous programs out there? Well, no, but we know better than you. This is the language. See, when I say progressive or regressive, it's regressive because of the fact that it's stealing away our fundamental right to question what they are doing. When Republicans keep basically saying we need to create bills, if we're going to vote on an issue, that issue should be the only thing on the bill that we pass. There should be no pork. There should be nothing else attached to it. If we want to address homelessness, we address homelessness in one bill. If we want to address the COVID, we address COVID in one bill. We don't add more things than we need to. But see, this is how you control the flow of freedom, because you turn around and you append a lot of these pork products onto bills, spending bills, and you make these bills 2,500 to 5,500 pages long, so that there's no time to verify all the data is in there is related to the very thing that people think you're voting on. Wokeness. And the worst part about it is when we try and tell you about it, we get censored. When we try and tell you about it, they start shutting the data down. Yes, Curtis. What's next when pigs fly? Oh, that study's already been underway. If you don't believe me, go to the Desert Inn Motel where Brad Staggs is staying. In the room next to him, he is helping the people work on the experiments of getting pigs to fly. Yes, Brad Staggs is not allowed to talk about it, but I can. Facebook will scale back all political content in U.S. news feeds, including posts from family and friends, in the coming weeks to turn down the temperature. Wokeness. We're watching the censorship of information and data because, see, things like this, that hearing about what Cuomo lied, Facebook is going to get rid of that. Do you realize this now? We are at the height of censorship, tyranny, and totalitarianism when the companies that control the flow of data keep you ignorant. So no matter what we post, no matter what we put out there, they control the data. They control the narrative. So as more, when one of my buddies, he asked me yesterday, what do I think about these CEOs who are stepping down from these CEOs and CFOs stepping down from these high positions? And we were going back and forth, and some have mentioned the whole idea of they're stepping down because more evidence of Epstein Island and so much more is about to come out, and they want to not be around when the evidence, because this is what I understand. How can you have Bill Cosby in jail for what he did, and all the people who were on Epstein's flight log are not in jail? See, y'all keep saying this is woke. Me Too is basically putting an end to the barbarism called chauvinism, supremacy, and racism. Anyone who was on the flight logs to Epstein Island should be in jail, but they are not. Clinton was on there multiple times, but he's not in jail. Oh, don't post that stuff about you. See, you see this? Do you see the conniving manipulation from Facebook? We're going to hide political posts, and guess what? Who determines what is a political post? So do we now have to start coding our messages as we try and get you the truth to avoid Facebook algorithms that hold back political truth? You hide truth. You hide the political information from the government that's put... See... What rambling in my mind this morning was 1987, former President Ronald Reagan giving the speech to Gorbachev to tear down that wall. I was trying to figure out how do I create an audio file to basically repeat that same energy, that same flow of power and dominance in what former President Ronald Reagan said, of saying tech giants, President Biden, Democrats, progressives, tear down that wall. Tear down the gates and fences that you've shielded yourself from being held accountable to the American people for your raping of the Constitution and our freedoms. Shame on you. You shielding yourself from being accountable from raping the truth and basically being a tyranny that you warned us about when you were always a tyranny to be. Controlling the flow of freedom. We don't have free access to our government buildings. We don't even have free access to our jobs, our shopping centers, because we have to live under the restrictions of wokeness based on lies. Yes, John Smiths, they control leadership. Most definitely. Most definitely. And here it goes again, because not only is it Facebook, Robert F. Kennedy, 67, is banned from Instagram for repeatedly sharing false claims about COVID-19 as he rails against the vaccine. Robert J. Kennedy is a prominent anti-vaxxer. See, that phrase right there, anti-vaxxer. Woke theology puts anti to basically say we don't want to address the issues. We don't want to talk about because think about this. You can't be pro-life. You have to be anti-abortion. But being abortion can't be called anti-life. It's pro-choice. It's not anti-life. You see how we control the flow of freedom of thought? Being pro-life is anti-abortion, but actually being pro-abortion is not anti-life. Because people die because of abortion. The control, progressive or regressive, I tell you regressive because we have now stifled free speech and the ability for us to communicate in spirit and in truth. Yeah, share the truth, but with meekness and respect. In a spirit of love and humility, share the truth. There are people who made the decision for abortion, and some of them regretted making the decision. Some of them felt like they had no other alternative. It is murder. And many of them felt like they had no other out. Let us have compassion on those individuals. Let us be the ones. If the Spirit of God, if the Holy Spirit is indwelt within us as a seal of the redemption provided by Christ on the cross, let us speak the truth in love. Let us not be condescending as we share the truth with people. Let us not be domineering as we share the truth. Let us just share the truth in a spirit of love. Let them know, sweetie, I'm sorry you had to choose abortion. But unfortunately, that was murder. That was a life that was in there. But God forgives. God will forgive you as God has forgiven me of my atrocities, my sins against him. My lying before God. See, controlling the flow of information and freedom. Let us be correct in our language and our intonation as we speak to people and let them know, yes, my lying is equally offensive to God as your abortion. Because once we get that language, we open up the avenues of conversation that could bring the possibilities of healing in the lives of individuals. Last night we had a powerful family Bible study last night. We were looking at the woman in the well. And honestly, for me, I saw completely different last night as I sat there with my wife and 3 girls. And we talked about the whole idea of, I set the stage to let my kids understand the relationship between Jews and Samaritans. I set the stage for them to understand why Samaria was hated and how Samaritans were called dogs by the Jews, and how the story of Jacob's well, and setting up the stage and all this. And in the process, because I want to take a brief step here, a brief pause away from what we were talking about and get into the meat of what you need to understand here, especially with the woman in the well, because we can call the woman at the well or the woman who just walked out of Planned Parenthood the same individual. She already feels dejected and rejected by society because of the decision that she made. It wasn't an easy. Now, there are some who use abortion as their means of birth control, and honestly, it's going to be difficult to reach them. It's going to be difficult to reach them. It's an act of God that goes through that, but maybe it might just be that act of God of kindness through us that reaches them so they could finally recognize that Planned Parenthood is not the solution. But the woman at the well who already felt dejected and rejected, no one in the city wanted to be around her. Worse, she was a Samaritan. We already understand the level of malevolence that Jews had against Samaritans. They called them half-breeds. They didn't call them purebred Jews. But she was also a woman who had no hope and no support. Married multiple times. You want to talk about the lowest form of rejection and dejection in life? And here, we're sitting there, we're having this conversation, and after we're done with our family study and looking at the woman at the well, how Christ decided not to be like the rest of society. He could tell her off, Jesus could tell her off, but Jesus decided to have a conversation with her. He made it even so intimate that he would even let her draw him water that he could drink. That I tell you that the woman at the well scenario is what God has been placing before us, even through this election process, even through many administrations, even through wokeness. God has given us multiple moments of women at the well, opportunities for us to shine the light of Christ. Let us control the narrative, the flow of freedom. Freedom, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And when we are operating in the Spirit of God and we're allowing the Spirit of God to let the word manifest through our souls, through our spirits, and into the lives of the very people that we touch, whether they're smelly, homeless individuals, whether they're people who've gotten aborted, whether they're people who are poor, whether they're drug addicts, it doesn't matter who they are. We have the chance to help these people, the very people being manipulated by the powers that be to keep voting for them. If we shine the light of truth in their lives, possibly we can free them from the lies, free them from the oppression, free them from the bondage and slavery that they're in to progressivism. But we don't want to take those steps because we have to be right. We have to win at all costs. Our principles be ruined. We will win at all costs. You can, that's when we regress. When winning at all costs, when winning says throw principles aside and let us focus on winning, we have regressed. We have not progressed. We have regressed. Speech is going to be banned. We will not have the freedom and the liberties to basically, we will not have the freedoms and the capabilities of changing this country. If we choose to follow the same pattern, if we stay on the hateful highway of the progressives, we win this country back. We see, understand this. We've been trying to take this country back from progressives, but we keep aiming high instead of aiming low. Do you realize that the woman at the well scenario is an example that Christ keeps setting for us? Let us, grassroots, that woman at the well moment is one of the most beautiful forms of a grassroots movement. That Jesus sat there and stopped and paused in the midst of everything going on. He was away from his disciples. She's away from the townspeople. She's at the well by herself. She got there at the worst time of the day, probably in the hottest moment of the day, because she knew that the other people wouldn't be there. There are people who are escaping reality right now. How are we willing to stop what we're doing and actually meet them at their wells? Meet them at the lowest points of their lives when they think that no one else is looking because they don't feel that they can operate freely out in public. They're rejected, they're dejected, and they need our compassion. It was a powerful lesson for me because I have 3 girls, and I didn't see them as the women at the well, but I wanted them to see their value before God. And sometimes God uses us to put value back in other individuals as we tell them about what Jesus did for them. Because wokeness is getting out of control. Here was another story that I saw that was just mind-blowing. Priyanka Chopra. Sincerely, I can't go back and change what I did. Priyanka Chopra sincerely apologizes for appearing in adverts for skin-lightening creams and felt sad when she saw them. Are you kidding me? So you can't even do commercials anymore. Van Jones can't actually show compassion. Van Jones can't show wokeness and actually humility and being human of taking a picture with Candace Owens or giving a attribution to Trump for actually doing things right. You can't do this. You can't model. You can't speak. You can't sing. You can't do anything. That is controlling freedom. That's not progressiveness. That's not wokeness. That is tyranny. That's tyrannical. Come on, folks. Priyanka Chopra is a beautiful woman. And now she's got to apologize for just modeling? This is not wokeness. This is horrific. That people can't do things. You can't perform, you can't sing, you can't act, you can't do anything anymore. We have lost our freedom to exist in the age of wokeness. This is not living. We are dying. Social justice movement is killing us. It is a toxin. It is a toxin, and it is a poison that we are engulfing. We're not taking small shots. We're not getting vaccine shots away from the toxins of life. We are basically being drowned in wokeness that's killing us day by day. That's just a crying shame. Here's the other one that was out there, and this is one that's really sad for me too. I've never heard his music, but Morgan Wallen tells fans not to come to his defense for using the N-word, and he admits he was wrong for using the racial slur in a lengthy Instagram confessional. He basically posted an update to Instagram on Wednesday addressing the fallout around his use of the N-word in a recent video uncovered by TMZ last week. In the over 5-minute Instagram video, the singer told his fans not to come to his defense because it was wrong, and the repercussions surrounding his use of the racial slur are on him. Guess what? While I agree that the word is wrong, you can't hold this man, Morgan Wallen, responsible if you refuse to hold rappers responsible. Woke theology, wokeness that says it's okay for black people. We own the N-word. We have a right to say the N-word is the height of ignorance. It's this flow of control and freedom. Because if white people aren't free to say the N-word, neither should black people be free to say the N-word. I don't care for the word, but understand this. Morgan Wallen, stop apologizing. stop apologizing. If we're not going to hold rappers, if we're not going to hold black comedians, if we're not going to hold black people who say, I met this one guy, this one young kid, he must have been about in his early 20s. I sat and listened to him have a conversation with other people for 15 minutes, and I'm not lying to you. My N-word is what he said at 3 times in the sentence. Almost every other word in his sentence was my N-word. He couldn't stop. If we sat there and we did a word chart of a word cloud of what words he used, my N-word would be bigger than the piece of paper. Lord Jesus, please help us. I gotta move positive. Attitude of gratitude. End this week off positive note. Send a message to b4faog@gmail.com. I'll do my best to share your story. So I found this story. It was beautiful on terms of Texas boy 11 saves his parents and 3-year-old sister from a fiery wreck by beating out flames with his hands after being thrown from the SUV when his mom fell asleep at the wheel and crashed. Anthony Canales, 11, was thrown from his family SUV in the highway crash near Poteet, 30 miles south of San Antonio. Now, you want to talk about wokeness? Mom was asleep. This child was awake to actually save his family. This country is burning, and we need people who are willing to pat down the flames. It's not Facebook, it's us. And we have a chance to save some semblance of sanity, but it doesn't help if we do it without God. Start patting down this lies with God's word, and let's control the flow of freedom by saving people one heartbeat at a time. Hey, Brad Saxon Daily Mojo's up next, folks. I'm out. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful weekend.